Turning criticism into confidence is a skill that can change the way a person experiences challenges, setbacks, and even public attacks. At the heart of this principle lies the ability to take energy that is directed at you in a negative form and repurpose it into something that empowers you. When someone criticizes, insults, or attempts to belittle you, it is often an attempt to pull you down to a level where they feel comfortable or superior. Yet, when you recognize that criticism is nothing more than information, you begin to see it as raw material that you can transform. Instead of allowing the sting of words to silence your spirit, you take them in, process them, and allow them to fortify your determination to rise even higher. This process demands inner strength, but it also cultivates it, because every time you refuse to be crushed by criticism, you are training yourself to be stronger in the face of adversity. Consider the story of leaders, innovators, and public figures who have faced ridicule before their breakthroughs. They were told they were not good enough, not intelligent enough, or not capable of achieving what they envisioned. Yet, what separates those who fail from those who succeed is the ability to reinterpret those harsh voices. Instead of internalizing rejection as truth, they converted it into motivation to prove the doubters wrong. This is the essence of turning criticism into confidence, because criticism highlights areas where others perceive you as weak, but it is within your power to decide whether that perception becomes a barrier or a stepping stone. When you take criticism personally, it can destroy you, but when you take it purposefully, it can build you into someone unstoppable. The psychology behind criticism is important to understand. Often, criticism says more about the critic than the person being criticized. People project their insecurities, fears, and limitations onto others because it is easier to point out flaws than to face their own. Knowing this allows you to detach emotionally from the words spoken against you. Instead of reacting defensively, you can pause, assess the criticism, and ask yourself if there is something useful hidden inside. Sometimes, critics accidentally hand you the blueprint for improvement. Other times, their words are empty noise. In both cases, you win, because you either identify a way to sharpen your skills or you develop resilience by refusing to absorb negativity. The act of turning criticism into confidence begins with this mental shift: no matter what someone says about you, it does not define your worth, it only reveals an opportunity for growth. Confidence built through criticism is more sustainable than confidence built through praise. Praise can be fleeting, and when you rely on external validation, you become addicted to approval. Criticism, however, forces you to look inward and build an unshakable foundation. Every insult endured, every doubt overcome, and every harsh word redirected becomes a brick in the fortress of your self-belief. This is why people who have faced heavy opposition often emerge stronger, because they were forced to develop internal validation that cannot be taken away. When you can smile in the face of negativity and still stand tall, you embody true confidence. Confidence is not the absence of criticism, it is the mastery of it. There is also an art to responding to criticism. Silence can be a weapon, showing that the critic does not have the power to disrupt your composure. Other times, a sharp and witty comeback, delivered with grace, can completely flip the dynamic, turning the critic into the embarrassed one. The key is not to react impulsively but to choose your response from a place of strength. When you understand that every critic is handing you a platform, you begin to see their attack as free publicity. Their attempt to bring you down only directs more eyes toward you, and if you stand tall, you become a living example of resilience. Critics unknowingly amplify the voices of those they target, and that amplification is wasted unless you harness it with confidence. In personal growth, criticism acts as resistance in the same way weights act in physical training. When you lift weights, you are literally tearing muscle fibers so they can rebuild stronger. Criticism works in a similar way, applying pressure that can initially feel painful but ultimately strengthens your character. Avoiding criticism is like avoiding the gym, you stay comfortable but weak. Facing criticism head-on is like lifting those heavy weights, you might ache in the moment, but you emerge stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for the next challenge. The greatest athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders did not build their power in the absence of opposition. They built it by embracing the discomfort of criticism and using it to sharpen themselves. Another important factor is learning to separate constructive criticism from destructive criticism. Constructive criticism, even when delivered harshly, contains a seed of truth that can help you improve. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, is meant only to harm and has no useful content. The confident person knows how to filter these, taking in what is useful and discarding what is toxic. If someone points out a weakness and you use it as fuel to strengthen that area, their attempt to belittle you actually becomes the reason for your growth. If someone throws baseless insults, you can simply dismiss them, because you recognize that their words hold no power over your reality. Both types of criticism, when managed properly, add to your confidence. One teaches you to grow, and the other teaches you to ignore what does not serve you. Criticism is inevitable whenever you step into the spotlight, voice your opinion, or pursue a dream. The only way to avoid it is to stay silent, stay small, and avoid taking risks. But silence and smallness come with their own pain, the pain of regret and wasted potential. It is far better to face criticism and transform it into confidence than to hide in fear of it. Every time you speak out, every time you chase a goal, every time you stand firm, you invite critics. But what they don't realize is that their words are actually strengthening your resolve. Each insult you survive adds another layer of armor, each challenge you face sharpens your skill, and each attempt to push you down only proves that you are rising high enough to be noticed. The mindset shift that unlocks confidence from criticism is the ability to see every attack as validation of your impact. Nobody criticizes those who are irrelevant. The fact that you attract criticism means you are visible, you are doing something that matters, and you are stirring people's emotions. This is proof that your presence carries weight. Once you realize this, instead of dreading criticism, you begin to welcome it as a signal of your significance. You learn to interpret insults as backhanded compliments, because they reveal that you are being heard and felt. Confidence grows when you stop asking, "Why are they attacking me?" and start saying, "They are attacking me because I am making a difference." With this understanding, criticism no longer feels like a wound, it feels like a trophy. Throughout history, figures who stood for change were always criticized. Great inventors, reformers, activists, and thinkers were ridiculed before they were celebrated. The pattern is clear: criticism precedes transformation. To turn criticism into confidence is to align yourself with that timeless truth, that the road to greatness is paved with the opinions of doubters. Your task is not to silence them, but to let their noise become the soundtrack of your rise. When you internalize this principle, you step into every challenge knowing that the harsher the criticism, the closer you are to something remarkable. That realization alone infuses you with confidence, because you understand that opposition is proof of progress, and confidence is built not in the absence of resistance but in the fire of it. Owning your authentic power begins with recognizing that who you are at your core is not only enough, but it is also the most powerful tool you possess. In a world where people constantly feel pressured to conform, to shrink themselves, or to mold their identities to fit expectations, authenticity becomes a rare and magnetic force. The moment you stop apologizing for being yourself and start embracing the totality of who you are, your strengths, your flaws, your history, and your dreams, you unlock a source of power that cannot be replicated or taken away. Authenticity is not about perfection. It is about wholeness, the willingness to stand as you are without disguises or masks. When you own your authentic power, you radiate a confidence that is deeper than surface-level bravado, because it is rooted in truth. People can sense authenticity immediately. It is the difference between someone who tries to impress and someone who simply expresses. When you walk into a room grounded in authenticity, others feel it. They may not be able to articulate it, but they will recognize that your energy carries weight because it is unforced and genuine. This kind of presence is magnetic, not because it seeks attention, but because it commands respect. Owning your authentic power means you no longer waste time trying to imitate others or hide behind facades. Instead, you cultivate the courage to bring your real self into every interaction. This courage creates a ripple effect, giving others permission to be themselves too, and that is how authenticity becomes a powerful form of leadership. At the root of authenticity lies self-acceptance. You cannot project confidence outward if you are constantly rejecting yourself inward. Too often, people disown parts of themselves because society, family, or peers told them those parts were unworthy. They hide their emotions, suppress their opinions, and silence their voices in the hope of being accepted. But the irony is that the more you deny yourself, the less authentic and powerful you become. Owning your authentic power requires a radical act of acceptance, a decision to stand by yourself even when others do not. This does not mean refusing to grow or improve, rather, it means understanding that growth becomes meaningful only when it is rooted in your true self, not in the version of yourself created to please others. Authenticity also comes from clarity of values. When you know what you stand for, decisions become easier, and confidence flows naturally. People who waver and second-guess themselves often do so because they are trying to balance conflicting expectations. But when you are anchored in your values, you no longer need to bend to every voice or opinion. You make choices that align with your truth, and those choices may not please everyone, but they will always empower you. This kind of alignment between values and action is what makes authenticity unshakable. Even when critics come, you do not falter, because you know you are living in integrity. The criticism may sting, but it cannot penetrate the armor of authenticity, because you are not performing for anyone else, you are living for what you know is right for you. Owning your authentic power also requires vulnerability. Many people confuse authenticity with toughness or bluntness, but true authenticity is not about hiding weaknesses, it is about owning them. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is honesty. When you can admit mistakes, acknowledge fears, and share real experiences without shame, you show a kind of strength that is rare. People connect to authenticity not because it looks perfect but because it feels real. Leaders who pretend to have it all figured out may inspire awe for a moment, but leaders who show their humanity inspire trust for a lifetime. Vulnerability makes authenticity relatable, and relatability deepens your power because it builds genuine connections. Confidence is not the absence of flaws but the willingness to be fully seen, flaws and all. Another dimension of authentic power is the refusal to compromise your voice. Too often, people silence themselves out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, or fear of not being understood. But every time you silence yourself, you diminish your authenticity. Owning your power means you speak up even when your voice shakes, you stand firm even when you stand alone, and you choose truth over comfort. Your voice may not always be loud, but it must be yours. The world is full of noise, but authenticity cuts through the noise like a clear bell. When you speak from your authentic self, people listen, not because you shout the loudest, but because your words carry the weight of truth. Authenticity also extends to how you handle success and failure. Many people lose themselves when they succeed, adopting arrogance or pretending to be something they are not to maintain status. Others lose themselves when they fail, believing that setbacks define their worth. But owning your authentic power means staying grounded in both victory and defeat. You celebrate success without letting it inflate you, and you endure failure without letting it diminish you. This steadiness is what makes authentic power unshakable, because it is not tied to circumstances, it is tied to identity. You know who you are regardless of outcomes, and that knowledge gives you a confidence that nothing can shake. Living authentically often means facing resistance, because not everyone will accept the real you. Some will criticize, some will misunderstand, and some may even walk away. But the cost of abandoning yourself to please others is far greater than the cost of losing approval. Authenticity may narrow the crowd around you, but it deepens the connections that remain. The people who stay are those who value you for who you truly are, not for the mask you wear. This creates relationships that are more meaningful, fulfilling, and supportive. In the long run, living authentically attracts the right opportunities, the right people, and the right paths, because you are no longer chasing what doesn't belong to you, you are aligned with what is meant for you. Owning your authentic power also means rejecting comparison. Comparison is the thief of authenticity because it tempts you to measure your worth against others. But your journey is not theirs, and their strengths do not diminish yours. The more you compare, the more you disconnect from your own path. Authenticity reminds you that your power lies not in being better than others but in being fully yourself. Nobody else can bring what you bring, and when you step fully into that uniqueness, you stop competing and start creating. You realize that the world does not need another imitation, it needs the original version of you. This shift frees you from insecurity and unleashes confidence, because you no longer waste energy pretending to be someone else. Authenticity requires consistency. You cannot claim to own your authentic power if you shift depending on who you are with. True authenticity means you are the same person in private as you are in public, the same with friends as you are with strangers, the same under pressure as you are at ease. This consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. People may not agree with everything you do or say, but if they know you are genuine, they will respect you. Respect is a form of power that cannot be demanded, it can only be earned through authenticity. And once respect is earned, it amplifies your ability to inspire, lead, and impact others. Finally, authenticity is not static, it evolves as you grow. Owning your authentic power means giving yourself permission to change while remaining true to your core. Growth does not mean abandoning authenticity, it means expanding it. As you learn, adapt, and move through life, your authentic self becomes deeper and richer. The key is to ensure that growth is driven by your truth and not by external pressure. This allows you to stay rooted even as you evolve, maintaining confidence that flows not from pretending to be perfect but from being perfectly yourself in every stage of life. From clapback to comeback is not simply about responding in the moment but about transforming a challenge into an opportunity to rise even higher than before. A clapback is often seen as a witty or sharp response to criticism, an immediate way of reclaiming power in a conversation or exchange. But the deeper meaning lies not just in the ability to answer back quickly, but in the ability to take any setback, insult, or attack and use it as the foundation for an even greater return. A comeback is not defined by the moment of opposition itself, but by what you do after it, how you channel the energy of the confrontation into long-term strength, growth, and impact. This principle applies in every aspect of life, whether in personal challenges, professional setbacks, or moments when others underestimate you, because the art of the comeback lies in refusing to be defined by what happens to you and choosing instead to be defined by how you rise afterward. Every great story of success is, at its heart, a comeback story. Behind every achievement lies a moment of doubt, criticism, or failure that could have ended it all. The power of the comeback is in its ability to rewrite the narrative, to take what was intended as the end and transform it into a new beginning. A clapback is a spark, but a comeback is the fire that follows, burning brighter because of the attempt to extinguish it. When you are underestimated, mocked, or dismissed, you are given a unique opportunity, because nothing fuels transformation more than proving wrong the voices that doubted you. The best comebacks are not born from anger but from purpose, from a deep decision that no matter what was said or done, you will not only survive but thrive. One of the keys to mastering comebacks is perspective. In the heat of criticism or insult, it is easy to focus only on the sting of the moment. But if you zoom out, you realize that these moments of opposition are small chapters in a much larger story. The question is not whether you will be criticized, it is whether you will allow criticism to close your story or motivate you to write a stronger chapter. Perspective reminds you that the present sting will fade, but the way you respond can define you for years to come. This is why comebacks are so powerful, they turn fleeting negativity into lasting strength. By refusing to let the moment dictate the outcome, you take control of the narrative and ensure that your story moves forward on your terms. The psychology of comebacks also involves resilience. Resilience is not about never being knocked down, it is about refusing to stay down. The comeback begins the moment you decide that failure, insult, or defeat will not be the final word. Resilience transforms what could have been a breaking point into a turning point. Every time life pushes you to the ground, resilience whispers that the ground is not your home, it is your launching pad. And when you rise from that place, you rise stronger, wiser, and more determined than before. This is the essence of the comeback, to turn pain into power, rejection into redirection, and setback into setup. You reclaim control over the story by choosing to rise instead of retreat. Another crucial element of the comeback is strategy. A clapback in the heat of the moment may win applause, but a comeback requires patience, vision, and discipline. You do not simply react, you build, you plan, you persist. The most powerful comebacks are not rushed, they are deliberate. They are built on preparation, hard work, and consistency. Instead of wasting energy on resentment, you invest energy into progress. The critic may laugh in the moment, but over time, your results silence them louder than any words could. The clapback may go viral, but the comeback endures, because it is written not in temporary applause but in lasting achievement. Strategy ensures that your rise is not only impressive but sustainable, proving that the best response to doubt is undeniable success. Comebacks also thrive on transformation. When someone insults you, they often point to what they perceive as a weakness. The power of the comeback lies in taking that very weakness and turning it into strength. If they mock your voice, you sharpen it until it commands attention. If they doubt your ability, you work until your ability outshines their expectations. If they ridicule your dream, you pursue it until it becomes reality. Transformation is the greatest revenge, not because it humiliates the critic, but because it elevates you to a level where their words can no longer reach you. The clapback may answer them, but the comeback transcends them, because transformation takes the negative energy they gave and recycles it into fuel for growth. There is also a spiritual dimension to comebacks. In every culture and tradition, stories of redemption and renewal carry immense power because they speak to a universal truth: we are not defined by our lowest moments but by our ability to rise from them. When you go through hardship, insult, or failure, it may feel like the end, but often it is the soil from which something greater will grow. Faith in your ability to rise, whether rooted in spirituality, purpose, or sheer determination, is what allows comebacks to happen. It is the belief that no matter how dark the moment, the light will return if you keep moving forward. That belief transforms despair into hope, and hope into action, creating the momentum that fuels the comeback. In relationships and interactions, comebacks also demonstrate maturity. A clapback may earn cheers, but a true comeback shows growth and control. It proves that you are not trapped by the need to win every small exchange, because you are playing a bigger game. The comeback is not about proving someone wrong in a single moment, it is about proving them wrong with the entirety of your journey. You do not need to match insult with insult, instead, you rise so high that their insult looks small against the scale of your success. This shift from reaction to elevation is what separates those who remain stuck in conflict from those who use conflict as fuel for transformation. The maturity of the comeback lies in its refusal to be pulled down into the mud, choosing instead to rise above and move forward. The power of comebacks is also tied to timing. Life has a way of testing us, and sometimes the results of our hard work are not immediate. The world may mock before it applauds, doubt before it believes, resist before it accepts. But if you are patient, your comeback will arrive in its season. Patience allows you to keep working, keep believing, and keep pushing forward even when recognition has not yet come. And when the timing aligns, the comeback shines brighter because it arrives after a period of struggle. People love comeback stories because they remind us that timing is not always in our control, but perseverance always is. The longer the climb, the greater the celebration when you reach the peak. In every comeback, there is also an element of storytelling. The world resonates with stories of people who faced adversity and rose again. Your comeback becomes an inspiration not only to yourself but to others who are watching, waiting for proof that they too can rise. Every time you come back from an insult, setback, or failure, you are writing a story that others can look to for hope. You become living evidence that no single moment defines a person, that resilience is stronger than rejection, and that strength is born in struggle. Your story becomes a mirror in which others can see their own potential, and that ripple effect turns your personal comeback into a collective source of empowerment. Comebacks also require vision. You cannot rise above if you cannot see beyond the present. Vision allows you to look past the insult, the pain, or the failure and imagine the life that lies beyond it. Vision fuels the work required to rise, because it keeps your eyes on the outcome rather than the obstacle. When you carry vision, every setback feels temporary, because you know it is part of the path towards something greater. Vision turns the comeback into not just a reaction but a recreation of your life. It shifts your focus from what you lost to what you can build, and that shift gives you the energy to rise stronger than ever. Ultimately, the journey from clapback to comeback is about refusing to let anyone else write your story. Others may speak, others may doubt, others may try to define you, but the comeback proves that the final word belongs to you. The insult may echo for a moment, but the impact of your rise will echo for a lifetime. The clapback shows wit, but the comeback shows character, and character always endures longer than applause. This is why the comeback carries so much power, because it is not about proving them wrong in the short term but about proving yourself right in the long term. It is about turning the energy of the moment into the fuel of a lifetime, ensuring that every obstacle you face becomes an opportunity to shine even brighter.